Hey y'all, it's your girl Mackenzie Janae here, back with another video. And in today's video I will be introducing something new. I know it's been a while since you've seen my face, but as always I'm just trying to balance life and YouTube. Eventually I'll get it together with the grace of God, okay? But today I will be going over books. If you guys did not know, I love to read. I love books like since forever. I was one of the top readers in my elementary to middle school journey. I was always taking a R test. I was always trying to be the top reader, reading the most words. I always wanted to read the fastest. So I have been engrossed in reading my whole life. At one point I thought I wanted to be an author because I just love storytelling. And this is like my little introduction into booktube, I guess you'd say. I like Christian books, and I like a romance, and I like some coming of age and some women's literature, but that's about it. When I was in school I was forced to read other things like The Great Gatsby. I appreciate that. I appreciate historic fiction also. So with all that being said, I want to start sharing with you guys some of my favorite books, the books I've been reading. I want to give you guys some reviews on it. So I'm going to be doing all the books I read from August to September, okay? And I'm going to be giving you guys little quick reviews. I'm going to be telling you guys which ones I recommend, which ones I don't, how I felt about it, what type of tropes I like, and what I look for in my romance books. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned, okay? Let's get into the video. Okay, so starting off, I love romance, and if it can be a POC romance, that's even better. But you know, for a long time there was not a lot of POC romances, so I was reading Caucasian romances and nothing was wrong with that. Like, that's fine. Some of my favorite authors growing up were like Abby Glines, Sarah Dessen, and they ain't have no people in color in them books, but they were good to me. I really enjoyed those two authors a lot. I do now prefer a closed door romance. Some like cursing I can handle, because as a Christian I wanted to find a way to still read my romance books, but for them not to be vulgar or for me to, you know, expose myself to stuff I don't really want to be reading, okay? So first of all, I read all my books on Libby. Well, I just moved over to Libby and I was on like whatever it was called before, so I lost a lot of my history, which I didn't realize. I should have took a picture of all that. If you guys do not have a Libby app, you should. It's the perfect place to get free books. The first book I read in August was Miss Pearlie's Girls. Okay, this book is by Rashonda Tate Billingsley, and this was the first book I read by her, and I would say I really enjoyed it. To me it was okay. I love the fact that it told a story for Black women, and it was very captivating. Each story was told pretty well, and it had enough drama in it for sure. They had enough drama in it, but it just almost borderlines on too much drama. I would rate it like 3 out of 5 stars. The Michaela version of the synopsis. It was about 4 daughters who were close at one point growing up. They grew up in a small town in Arkansas, I believe. As they grew up, they left the small town, and only one sister stayed and lived with the mom, and they had so much hate in their heart for very different reasons. A lot of secrets were held. It wasn't a page turner either, but it was good that some Black women's stories were being told. It just wasn't my favorite book. Okay, so the next book that I read in August was The Wish by Nicholas Sparks. I feel like I was kind of late to this book, and I wasn't knowing what to expect because I have read Nicholas Sparks in the past, because like I said, I'm a romance girl, so I watched some of the movies, read the books, and this book was about a woman who has cancer. She's part owner of a art exhibit, and one day this young man comes in and wants to be like an assistant. She's really not that trusting when it comes to her cancer diagnosis. She doesn't like to talk about it a lot because she started a YouTube channel talking about it, so she doesn't know who wants to be friends with her for her, or who just wants some information on her cancer diagnosis. So at first she was really standoffish with the worker, but then she eventually started talking to him and she started telling her story of her life. And I like that it flips between past and present. She basically got pregnant at a very young age by accident, and her parents sent her off to another state, either North or South Carolina if I'm not mistaken, to live with her aunt that she never really goes around a lot, and it ends up being some of the best times of her life. And she falls in love, and it's just a love that couldn't flourish. Basically, it was a pretty sad book, but it was a page turner because you wanted to figure out how everything tied together. I would give The Wish like 4 out of 5 stars. It was very good to me. I enjoyed it. It was intriguing to get a look into someone with a cancer that was not about to be cured. She knew her life was about to end. Some of the parts of the story were very frustrating. It was frustrating hearing about how her parents dealt with her pregnancy, and I liked the ending, but it was sad. I think I definitely cried. The next book that I read was Dream On by Angie Hockman. This book was good. I really like this one. So this book was about a lady who was a lawyer, but on her way coming home from the bar exam, she got into a car accident. I think she just had a traumatic brain injury. I don't know, I can't remember. But basically, she started having dreams while she was in a coma that she had a whole relationship with a man. Like, she woke up thinking that she had a boyfriend, and she was like, where's my boyfriend? Is he coming? Like, where he at? And her family was looking at her crazy because she didn't have no boyfriend. So basically, it was a story of her figuring out that her dream man was real, and she tries to date him, but he also ends up having a brother that is also pretty compatible with her. I don't remember if this was a closed door romance or not. I'd give it a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read in August was another audiobook, and it was The Off Limits Rule by Sarah Adams. This was definitely a closed door romance, and I loved it. Okay, first of all, I love that the main character was a hairdresser. She was also a single mother, and she was on rough times living with her brother, and she's basically falling for her brother's best friend. This book was really good. I enjoyed it. It was very lighthearted, but the love connection was strong and it seemed genuine, so I'd give this book a 5 out of 5 stars. I was definitely intrigued and wanted to keep reading about this story. It was very believable. Okay, so the next book that I read in August was Just Let Go by Courtney Walsh. Now, this was a Christian fiction romance. Okay, I was so happy to be introduced to this author because, like I said, I'm always looking for romance, and then I'm always looking for Christian authors also, so this was the perfect combination. This book was very long though. It did a good job in telling each of the characters' backstory, in my personal opinion. So it was about this woman named Quinn who owned a flower shop, and she was dealing with mother issues. Her mom left her at a very young age. She just left town, left her husband, left her kids. She left. So she was dealing with that. She was running her mom's business, essentially the business that she left. She was running it. She wanted to kind of live the life her mom didn't finish in the town, so she did her business. She wanted to prove to her mom that she could make it without her. So she was dealing with that. She was also dealing with perfectionism. But then there's this professional skier that comes to town. He's like the opposite of what she wants, basically. And he's kind of reckless. He has been kicked off his Olympic team, and now he came in this small town and he got in a fight in a diner. So now he must stay in the town, basically. He went to court and everything, and he was ordered to stay in the town, and he has to do community service. So that's basically how they meet. I really did enjoy it. I would give it a 5 out of 5. Okay, the last book I read in August was, can I say it? Twice a Quinceañera, A Delightful Second Chance Romance by Yamil Saeed Mendez. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, because this book was so good. I would give this a 5 out of 5. I really appreciated this. It was about a woman who was on the brink of her 30th birthday, and she was engaged. She was going to be married to this man, but she calls it off. She was like, I can't do it. I wanted to be married by 30, but that's just not going to cut it. She decides to throw herself a double quinceañera. She took the venue from her wedding and threw herself a big birthday party, and at first her family was looking at her like she was crazy. Like, girl, you can't throw yourself a birthday party, you're supposed to have a wedding. Like, all the invitations were out, but she made it happen. The owner of the wedding venue ends up being her love interest, and let me just say, I really enjoyed this story. It was a page turner. It was kind of woman empowerment too, because it was so important to see her taking back her power. I really enjoyed this book. Like, 5 out of 5 stars. And then it was people of color, of course, so you can't get better than that. And I liked getting into his story a little bit too. He had like a sketchy past. He had some guilt going on, so it was kind of hard for them to trust each other. But this book was very good, and I would definitely recommend it. Okay, so now for my September books. The first book that I read in September was Paper Hearts. And Paper Hearts was another Courtney Walsh book. I wasn't sure if I was gonna like this one, but I loved it. I thought her books were going to be too similar, but it wasn't. This book was also about an entrepreneur, which I love that, and she actually owns a bookstore in a small town. She's in like a shopping center, and the woman who owns the whole building basically wants to sell it. So she's selling it to this man who's pretty rich. He is a doctor, and he's basically going to kick her out of the building so he can use the whole space as his doctor's office in a new town. The town is kind of based on love. She turns her bookstore into a love hub, and it becomes so popular in the town they don't want him to turn it into a doctor's office. And he's also a single father, which I like that. And he was a really good guy, and his backstory about why he was, you know, without his wife is just amazing. Like, I did not see any of that coming. It was a page turner. Once again, it was super long. I feel like some of her books can be cut down a little bit. I think it was like 600 pages or something. It was very long, but I really did enjoy it. So I would definitely recommend that. 5 out of 5 stars. Another one of my favorites from the month of September was The Holiday Switch. I was super early on Christmas romances, but this one was so good. Okay, this was YA. They were about to go to college in this, so I could like really resonate more with it. But it was about this girl who worked in a bookstore, once again in a small town, but she also had a secret book blog. Like, her parents, for a certain reason, did not want her to be on the internet at all, but she had a secret blog, and she works in this bookstore that was actually featured in a movie, The Holiday by the Lake, and it was iconic. They used to have tour buses going to the bookstore. Like, they were obsessed with it. And the bookstore's owner has a nephew who comes and works in the bookstore and basically tries to take the girl hours because she's going to college and she wants to make as much money as she can, so she wanted all the hours, but now she has to split it with his boy. He's not trying to be at work for real. He's always going missing, and eventually she realizes that he has a secret, and then he realizes that she has a secret. I really like this story. It was really good. It was cute, and I like that it was a holiday book. I don't think I read a holiday book either ever or in a very long time. Certain problems I just don't resonate with. Her not telling her parents about the blog. They seemed pretty understanding. Yes, they didn't want her on the internet, but they seemed like loving, caring parents. She could have told them. It wasn't a big deal. But I still like this book. I would definitely give it a 4 out of 5 stars. Other than like little issues I had with it, it was really good and it was so cute. It was perfect for the holidays. Okay, so my next book that I read in September was another Courtney Walsh book. This one was Just Look Up. Now let me tell you, this one was a little slower. I almost DNF'd it because I couldn't get into it at first, but this was about an interior designer who lives in Chicago. She used to live in a small town, but she left and never really looked back. She has to go back because her brother was in a motorcycle accident with his friend, and he was basically in the ICU in a coma for a very long time. She has to go back because she ends up falling for the brother in the coma's best friend, who was also in the car accident. One thing about Courtney Walsh, she's gonna have some juiciness in there. It's not really messy, but like as the story unfolds, she's gonna have some things that have you like, whoa. So by the time I was like middle to the end of the book, I was really more into it than in the beginning. I'm glad I finished it. I really did like this book. I really like this book. And once again, it was a Christian book. It wasn't overwhelming, but they definitely implemented God in there. The next book that I read is definitely an iconic BookTube, TikTok, Instagram book person book. It is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. This book was so good and cute. I'm so glad that I believed everybody who said that this book was good, because this book was definitely good. It was a 5 out of 5 stars. Like, I could definitely see this being a movie. It is once again YA, but they're like about to be college age, so it's a little bit of an advanced, a little bit older YA. And it's about this two set of neighbors who their whole life they basically was like pranking each other. They was not liking each other at all, but the girl eventually wants to use the neighbor to get to a childhood friend that's come back in town. She basically was trying to trap him into a relationship. Like, she wanted to be with him bad, so she used the boy because they were friends. It was a little frustrating because she wasn't being honest. Like, girl, let him come to you. You don't have to chase nobody. And she was like hard down chasing him. She was also like not being honest with her friend. But other than that, the story was really good. And she like also couldn't see that this boy liked her. She was oblivious, and that was annoying. She needed some work as a person, but but everything else about this book was good. The next book that I read in September was The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. You see, I did all that because this book is good, okay? This book was another closed door romance, and this was about a girl whose best friend was an NFL football player. They've been friends for years. Everybody thought they should date, and she was in love with him and he was in love with her, but they didn't know. So it had that miscommunication trope, which I really hate, because be grown up and talk about it. It was good though. It was good, but I would still give it a 4 out of 5 stars. Be honest, you can give somebody a hint. I couldn't go my whole life in love with someone without at least throwing a hint out there or something, or saying a little bit of something, because I'd rather you turn me down and cut it off than to be in angst and to constantly, you know, see you dating other people. Like, I'd rather just cut it off. But other than that, their love story was really cute and I did enjoy it. Definitely a 4 out of 5. If you guys don't mind the miscommunication trope, it's probably a 5 out of 5. The last book that I read in September was The Tourist Attraction by Sarah Morgenthaler. This book was so cute. I don't know if this was the first book in the series, but as I go into my October reads, I definitely got more into this author because her books are so cute. This book is about a girl who goes to Moose Springs. Is that the name of it? Moose Springs? It is Moose Springs. So she goes to Moose Springs, and basically she used all the money she had left. She quit her job just to go on a vacation because she was obsessed with Alaska, which, first of all, crazy. She quit her job to go to Alaska with her friend who was completely filthy rich, who's always in Alaska basically, and she ends up falling for this diner owner who doesn't want to be a diner owner, but he was definitely grumpy. He was definitely grumpy. He was not into having the tourists in his town. He hated tourists because it affected the population of the moose. It affected the businesses in the area. So he wasn't really with that, but he ended up falling for her. I guess it was the trope, I hate everybody but you, kind of, because he hated all tourists, but he was really falling for her because she was different. I liked how quirky she was, and like how it wasn't like a instant in love situation. So I think that is it. Okay, at the end of October, I will be doing a everything I read in October book review / recommendations video, and I don't know if we're gonna do a TBR, because with me, I just read whatever is available that I like on Libby, and I'm always searching. But I really want to give you guys some recommendations because this is something that I've always enjoyed, and I feel like I just want to share it with y'all. And as you can see, I can talk about books all day because I've been talking a lot. So if you guys are interested in the books I read, or if you want some book recommendations, so I hope you all enjoyed this video. I will see you guys in my next upload.